At 11 years old, my mom left me with $2 and a note that said, in her neat, looping handwriting, "Be responsible. Don't call me unless it's an emergency." I remember it because I stared at the paper so long the ink started to blur, not because it was wet, but because my eyes wouldn't stop. The note was sitting on the kitchen counter beside an empty fruit bowl and a stack of bills with red "Final Notice" stamps, like someone had tried to decorate our life with panic. My mom's suitcase was already gone. The apartment felt too quiet, like even the fridge was holding its breath. I found the $2 folded into a tight square under the note, like she was afraid it might try to escape. 2 crumpled $1 bills, warm from her fingers. I didn't understand then that she wasn't leaving me alone exactly. She'd arranged for my Aunt Denise to check in, but I did understand the message. Whatever happened next, it was on me. I ran to the window and pressed my forehead to the glass. The parking lot was full of heat shimmer and garbage bins and cracked asphalt. My mom's car wasn't there. My little sister, Lily, was gone too. 8 years old, the golden child with the soft hair that my mom brushed like it was made of silk. I opened my mouth to call Lily's name anyway, like maybe she was hiding behind the couch, but the apartment gave me nothing back. My hands started to shake, and I didn't know what to do with them, so I counted the money again, like the number might change. 1, 2. I didn't even have a phone yet, not my own. The landline had been disconnected months earlier because my mom said we didn't need it. I only had the neighbor's number memorized because she'd once made me repeat it until I could say it in my sleep. Miss Alvarez from down the hall. "If you ever need help," she'd said, "you knock." That morning, I didn't knock. I stood in front of her door with my fist raised and my throat tight, and something mean and small inside me whispered that if I asked for help, I was proving my mom right, that I wasn't responsible, that I was the problem. Then I heard my stomach growl, loud in the hallway, and responsibility suddenly felt like a joke. I knocked. Miss Alvarez opened the door in a hair wrap and slippers, and the smell of frying onions came out like a hug. She took one look at my face and didn't ask if I was okay. She asked, "Where is your mother?" And I said, "Europe," like it was a normal place for a mom to be on a Tuesday morning when her kids still needed permission slips signed. Miss Alvarez blinked twice. "Europe," she repeated, tasting the word like it had bones in it. "And you?" I held up the note and the $2 like evidence. Ms. Alvarez's mouth pressed into a line, and her eyes, soft most days, went sharp. "Come inside," she said. "Sit." She put a plate in front of me with eggs and rice and something crispy, and I ate too fast because I was embarrassed by how hungry I was. Halfway through, I realized she was watching me with that adult stillness that means they're making decisions. "Your aunt is coming," I said quickly, because my mom had told me Aunt Denise would handle things. Ms. Alvarez raised an eyebrow. "Your aunt," she repeated, "and how will she handle feeding you?" I didn't have an answer, because I'd never been allowed to ask those questions. In our family, questions were disrespect. Feelings were drama. If you cried, you were making a scene. So I swallowed, and I said the only thing I knew how to say, "I'll be fine." Ms. Alvarez reached across the table and flipped the note over. "Be responsible," she read out loud, voice flat. Then she looked at me and said, "You are 11. Responsibility is not supposed to feel like fear." I didn't know what to do with that sentence, so I stuffed it somewhere deep and told myself I'd think about it later. Later became years. Aunt Denise showed up that afternoon smelling like cigarette smoke and cheap perfume, her lips already pursed like she'd been sucking on resentment. "Your mother told me you'd be difficult," she announced the moment she walked in, like I was a task on a list. She didn't hug me, she didn't ask how I was. She went straight to the kitchen cabinets, opened them, clicked her tongue at how empty they were, and said, "Of course." Then she pointed at the sink. "Wash what's in there and don't touch anything else." When I told her my mom left me $2, Aunt Denise snorted. "That's generous," she said. "Maybe now you'll learn not to waste." That night she made Lily a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk, then set a bowl of plain cereal in front of me with water because we were out of milk. Lily's eyes met mine over the table, guilty and confused, but she didn't say anything because in our house, the person who spoke up became the target. I wanted to be angry at her, but I was 11 and she was 8, and our mom had trained us to survive in different ways. Lily survived by being loved. I survived by being useful. Over the next week, check-in turned into move-in. Aunt Denise parked herself on our couch and treated the apartment like a free motel. She brought a duffel bag and a list of rules. No TV unless chores were done, no snacks unless she gave permission, no complaining because your mother is doing this for your own good. The fridge stayed mostly empty, except for Lily's yogurt cups and a bag of shredded cheese that Aunt Denise guarded like it was gold. I started taking extra ketchup packets from the school cafeteria and stuffing them in my backpack. I started drinking water until my stomach hurt just to feel full. And at night, when the apartment went quiet and Lily fell asleep, I'd lie on my bed and stare at the ceiling, replaying my mom's voice like a recording. I'm going to Europe for a month. I need a break. You'll be fine. Denise will check in. You're the oldest. You can handle it. The way she'd said it made it sound like a compliment, like I'd been chosen. But compliments shouldn't make your chest feel like it's caving in. The first time I tried to call her, I had to use Miss Alvarez's phone. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. It rang, and then my mom's voicemail answered in that cheerful tone she used for strangers. "Hi, you've reached Carla. Leave a message." I left one. "Mom, it's me. We don't have food. Aunt Denise said I only have $2. I waited for her to call back. She didn't. 2 days later, she texted Miss Alvarez's phone a single line. "Stop being dramatic. Learn to solve problems." Miss Alvarez read it, and her face went so still it scared me. "Sweetheart," she said, and the way she said it, soft, careful, made my throat burn. "Do you have other family?" I thought about my grandparents, both gone. I thought about my dad, a man my mom described like a bad smell. "No," I said. Miss Alvarez stared at the phone, then at me. "I should call someone," she murmured. I knew what she meant even if I didn't know the words. CPS, foster care, strangers. The idea made my skin go cold. "Please don't," I begged, and my voice sounded like a little kid even though my mom had been trying to beat the kid out of me for years. "Please, I'll be fine." Miss Alvarez sighed the kind of sigh adults do when they're angry but trying not to scare you. "Okay," she said slowly, "but you come to me, you understand? Any time." I nodded so fast my head hurt. And then she did something that changed everything. She made a plan. She didn't just feed me, she taught me how to survive without thinking of it as shame. She wrote a list with me on a napkin. School lunch is free, ask the cafeteria lady for extra fruit, library is safe after school, if Aunt Denise won't buy groceries, we find other ways. She gave me a small paper bag with sandwiches and apples and said, "This is not charity, this is community." I didn't fully understand, but the word community felt like a door opening. For weeks, that door kept me from falling completely through the floor. I started babysitting for Miss Alvarez's niece on Saturdays. $10 here, $5 there. I walked dogs for a man in the building next door. I collected cans. I learned which corner store clerk would slip me a bruised the manna for free if I looked hungry enough. I hid the money in a sock under my mattress and counted it at night like prayer. Lily didn't know any of this. Lily still believed Mom was on a magical vacation and would come back with gifts. And maybe she would have if Lily had been the only child. But I was there too. The reminder of something my mom didn't want to look at too closely. Her first attempt. Her mistake. The one she'd once joked about in front of her friends after a glass of wine. "Maya came early," she'd laughed, waving a hand like I was a scheduling inconvenience. I wasn't ready. Everyone had laughed with her, and I'd stood in the hallway holding a plate of chips, cheeks burning, learning that my pain could be entertainment. Europe didn't feel real until the postcard arrived. A glossy picture of the Eiffel Tower with my mom's handwriting on the back. Wish you were here. Be good for Denise. Love, Mom. There was a lipstick kiss mark next to the word love, like she had to perform affection even on paper. I stared at the postcard until my eyes ached. Then I folded it and shoved it in my drawer. Wish you were here felt like the cruelest joke. One night, about 2 weeks in, Lily got a fever. She shook under a thin blanket, her cheeks hot, eyes glassy. Aunt Denise was on the couch watching reality TV, laughing at strangers. She's sick, I said. Aunt Denise didn't look away from the screen. She's fine. Lily whimpered, calling for Mom in her sleep. Something in me snapped. Not loudly, not in a way anyone would applaud, but in a quiet, dangerous way. I walked out, knocked on Miss Alvarez's door, and said, I need help. Miss Alvarez didn't hesitate. She came over with a thermometer, medicine, and a grocery bag of soup ingredients. She made Lily broth and sat by her bed like a guard. Aunt Denise rolled her eyes. Always meddling, she muttered. Miss Alvarez turned and said, always caring. The words hung in the air like a slap. Aunt Denise glared but didn't argue because even she knew how it looked. That was the night I learned the difference between power and love. Power makes you small. Love makes you safe. My mom came back on day 31. I remember because I'd crossed off each day on a calendar like a prisoner. The front door opened and she walked in with a tan, new sunglasses, and shopping bags swinging from her arms. She looked happy. Genuinely, stupidly happy, like the world had been kind to her. Lily ran to her, screaming, and my mom scooped her up and spun her around. My baby, she squealed. Then her eyes slid to me and the smile thinned. Hey, she said, like I was a neighbor kid she barely knew. Aunt Denise launched into complaints before my mom even put her bags down. You left me with nothing, Carla, nothing. Those kids eat like animals, and the girl, she jerked her chin at me, she's always acting like she's starving. My mom laughed, actually laughed, and ruffled Lily's hair. Maya's dramatic, she said. She always has been. I felt my face go numb. I could have screamed. I could have thrown the postcard at her. Instead, I reached under my mattress, pulled out my sock full of money, and held it in my hand like a grenade. $68 and some change, my month of hustling and hunger. I saved this, I said, voice steady in a way that surprised me, for groceries. My mom's eyes flicked to the bills and something greedy woke up in her expression. She held out her hand. Good, she said, give it to me. I have to pay bills. But, I started. My mom's tone turned sharp. Maya, don't argue. Lily was still in her arms, watching. Aunt Denise smirked. My stomach dropped, but my hand moved anyway, because at 11 you still believe love is obedience. I handed her the money. My mom stuffed it into her purse and didn't even say thank you. That was the moment, small, ordinary, that changed my relationship with her forever. It wasn't the Europe trip, not exactly. It was the lesson underneath it. I could work until my bones hurt, and she would still take from me like it was her right. After that, life kept moving, because life always does. Middle school became high school. I got good grades because school was the only place my effort meant something. I joined clubs because it kept me out of the apartment. I learned how to smile like nothing hurt because my mom hated titty faces. Lily grew up adored and defended, her mistakes forgiven before she even made them. If Lily forgot her homework, my mom marched to school with it like a hero. If I forgot mine, my mom said, "See, this is why you'll never be anything." When I got my first job at 15, bagging groceries after school, my mom took rent from my paycheck. Not much, she claimed. Just teaching you responsibility, she'd say, like it was a sacred mantra. Responsibility, responsibility, responsibility. It was her favorite word because it made neglect sound like parenting. By 17, I had a plan. Graduate early, get scholarships, leave. When I got my acceptance letter to a state university with a partial scholarship, I cried in the bathroom so no one could call me dramatic. My mom barely glanced at the letter. "How much will it cost me?" she asked. "Nothing," I said. "Then do it," she replied, already bored. Lily threw herself a small party when she made the cheer team, and my mom bought balloons. When I left for college, my mom didn't come to campus. She said she was busy. Miss Alvarez drove me, hugging me so tight I felt my ribs bend. "You are not a mistake," she whispered in my ear. I nodded, but part of me didn't believe it yet. In college, I worked 2 jobs, tutoring and a cafe, and studied like my life depended on it, because in a way it did. I built a new identity out of achievement because I didn't know how else to be. I didn't date much, I didn't party, I saved money and kept my head down. On my 19th birthday, my mom texted, "Happy birthday." That was it. 2 years later, Lily dropped out after 1 semester. My mom called me furious. Not at Lily, of course, but at me. "Your sister is going through something," she snapped. "You could be more supportive." I stared at my phone, the absurdity making me laugh. Supportive. The woman who'd left me with $2 wanted me to teach her favorite child resilience? I didn't. I stayed quiet, finished my degree, and got a job. At 24, I moved into my own apartment across town. At 25, I started therapy. The first time I told my therapist about the $2, I expected her to say, "That's unfortunate," the way people do when they don't want to feel anything. Instead, she said, "That was neglect." A plain sentence, a label. It landed in my chest like a rock. Neglect. Not responsibility training, not tough love. Neglect. I went home and sat on my floor and cried until my face swelled, because naming it meant I couldn't pretend anymore. Around that time, my mom started calling more, not to ask how I was, not to apologize, but to hint. "Must be nice," she'd say when I mentioned work. "Good money, huh?" If I didn't respond quickly, she'd send guilt wrapped in sweetness. "I miss you, baby. Family is all we have." I didn't fall for it, not fully, but the old wiring in my brain still twitched. Then, one afternoon in early spring, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in months. Mom. I almost let it go to voicemail. Something in me, habit, hope, fear, answered. "Hello?" There was heavy breathing on the other end. Then my mom's voice, cracked and thin. "Maya," she whispered, like she was saying a prayer. My stomach tightened. "What's wrong?" I asked, already bracing. She made a sound between a sob and a laugh. I need you," she said. The words hit me so hard I had to sit down. Not because they were loving, because they were rare. "I'm in trouble," she continued quickly, momentum building like she was afraid I'd hang up. "We're in trouble. The rent is behind. The car, there's a loan. I didn't want to call you, but—" She choked dramatically. "I don't have anyone else." I stared at the wall of my apartment, at the clean paint and the quiet, and thought of 11-year-old me holding $2 like it was a lifeline. "Where's Lily?" I asked. A pause. Lily has stress," my mom said. "She's planning the wedding." My throat went cold. "Wedding?" "Yes," my mom rushed on, relief that I hadn't immediately refused. "She's engaged, Maya. It's happening fast. And you know how expensive everything is. Deposits, venue, dress. We already paid some things, but then—" Her voice took on that familiar, sharp edge. "Then your sister's fiancé lost his job, and it's complicated, and— Maya, don't make this about the past." I didn't realize my nails were digging into my palm until it stung. "How much?" I said. Just 15,000, she whispered, like it was a small favor, like she wasn't asking me to drag my childhood back out of the grave and bleed for it again. $15,000, I repeated, for Lily's wedding. "For family," she corrected quickly. "For stability. We'll pay you back." I almost laughed. My mom had never paid me back for anything. Not money, not love, not time. "I need to think," I said. Maya, she cried, voice rising, don't do this. I'm your mother. The word mother cracked something in me. You left me with $2 when I was 11, I said, and my voice was calm in a way that scared me more than anger. You didn't call me back. You told me to solve problems, so solve this one. Silence. Then her voice turned icy. So that's what this is, she said. You've been holding a grudge for years. You're selfish. There it was, the switch. Sweetness to cruelty in one breath. I swallowed, feeling the old, familiar urge to explain myself, to make her understand. But you can't explain a wound to the person who keeps picking at it. I'll call you back, I said, and hung up before she could poison me further. For the next hour, my body moved like it was in 2 timelines at once. One timeline was adult me, sitting at my kitchen table with a job and an apartment and a life I built. The other was 11-year-old me, counting ketchup packets and praying the cafeteria lady wouldn't notice. My phone buzzed again and again. Mom, Lily, unknown numbers, relatives I barely spoke to. Suddenly activated, like my mom had pushed a button labeled Shame Maya. I didn't answer. Instead, I called Miss Alvarez. She was older now, her voice slower, but the steadiness was the same. Mija, she said when I told her. They always come back when they're hungry. What do I do? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. You do what keeps you safe, she replied, and you remember, you are not responsible for her choices. Safe. I rolled the word around in my mouth like it was foreign. That night, I opened a box in my closet where I kept old papers, report cards, certificates, things I'd saved to prove I existed. At the bottom was the postcard from Paris and my mom's note. I unfolded it, and the paper was soft from age. Be responsible, it said. I stared at it until my vision blurred. Then I did something I'd never done before. I wrote back, not to send, just to see the truth on paper. Dear Mom, I wrote, hand shaking. I was responsible. You were gone. The next day, I asked my mom for details, not emotional details, numbers. If you want money, I texted, send me a breakdown. Rent owed, loan statements, deposits, everything. She replied with outrage, you don't trust me? Then, 10 minutes later, a blurry photo of an eviction notice, a screenshot of a negative bank balance, and a wedding venue receipt with Lily's name on it. I zoomed in on the venue receipt and my stomach flipped. The deposit had been paid months ago, while I'd been working overtime, while my mom had been sending must-be-nice texts. You paid for this, I messaged, before the emergency. Because Lily deserved one nice thing, my mom wrote back, immediately, as if that justified everything. You have no heart. My hands went cold. My therapist's voice came back. That was neglect. Another word came too, one my therapist had taught me recently, manipulation. I took a breath and texted, if I help, it will not be a gift. It will be directly to rent and utilities only. No wedding, no cash to you. And I want a repayment agreement. My mom called within seconds, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away. How dare you? You think you can control me after everything I did for you? Everything she did for me. Like hunger was a favor, like fear was training, like $2 was love. This is my boundary, I said, voice steady. Take it or leave it. Leave it, she spat. Keep your money. We don't need you. Then she hung up. For 2 days, I heard nothing. My chest stayed tight anyway because silence from my mom was never peace. It was buildup. On the 3rd day, Lily texted me a photo. It was a picture of my mom sitting on a curb outside their apartment building, head in her hands, surrounded by trash bags. We got locked out, Lily wrote. Mom said you did this. I stared at the picture so long my eyes went dry. I did this, I typed back, then erased it. Because the truth was, my mom did this. My mom had driven the car into the wall and was now pointing at me for the dent. Lily called, crying. "Maya, please," she sobbed. "She's losing it. We don't have anywhere to go. I know she messed up, but she's still our mom." Our mom. The phrase tasted like metal. "Where's your fiancé?" I asked. Lily hesitated. He left," she admitted. "He said he couldn't handle the drama." I almost said, "Welcome to my childhood," but I bit my tongue until it hurt. "Lily," I said carefully, "did you know about the $2? Silence. "Did you know she left me with nothing?" More silence, and then Lily's voice, small. I didn't know it was that bad." Something shifted in me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but clarity. Lily wasn't my mom. Lily was a product of my mom. "I will help you," I said, and Lily exhaled like she'd been drowning. "But not the way Mom wants. I'll pay for a week in a cheap motel for you only, not her, and I'll pay the deposit directly. No cash." Lily started to protest, reflexively defending our mom, but I cut in. "If Mom comes, I cancel it. This is my condition." Lily went quiet, then whispered, "Okay." An hour later, I booked the motel in Lily's name and sent her the confirmation. My mom called me immediately, voice syrupy now, like she'd put the rage away and taken out charm. "Baby," she cooed, "I knew you'd do the right thing." My stomach curdled. "This is for Lily," I said, "not you." My mom's sweetness curdled. "So you're punishing me," she snapped, "for one mistake when you were a kid?" A month of abandonment, a childhood of scapegoating, minimized into a typo. "It wasn't one mistake," I said. "It was a pattern." My mom scoffed. "You always were dramatic." Then she lowered her voice like she was sharing wisdom. "Listen to me, Maya. You can't hold on to the past forever. That's why you're alone." The words hit a sore spot, because for a second my brain wanted to believe her. Then I remembered Miss Alvarez's kitchen. I remembered my therapist calling it neglect. I remembered that being alone had been safer than being used. "I'm not alone," I said quietly. "I'm just not trapped." She inhaled sharply, like I'd slapped her. "You think you're better than me," she hissed, "after I gave you life." "You gave me life," I replied, voice trembling now, not with fear, but with something like grief. "But you didn't protect it." My mom went silent. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, she would crack open and something human would come out. Instead, she said, "Fine, if you won't help me, don't expect me to be your mother anymore." I laughed, a short, ugly sound. "You haven't been," I said, and hung up. 2 weeks passed. Lily stayed in the motel, then moved in with a friend. She started working again, small steps. She called me sometimes, not to ask for money, but to talk. And those conversations were awkward and raw, like we were learning a new language. Then, one Sunday afternoon, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, my mom was standing there with a suitcase, mascara smudged, eyes wide and wet like a movie. For a second, I saw the version of her that fooled people, the struggling single mother, brave and misunderstood. Then I saw her hands, perfect nails, expensive ring, and I remembered Paris. "Maya," she breathed, stepping forward like she was entitled to my space. "I have nowhere else." I didn't move. "You told me you didn't need me," I said. My mom's face twisted. "I was upset," she snapped. Then she forced the tears back on. "Please, I'm your mother. I'm sick." My heart tripped. "Sick how?" I asked, because despite everything, my body still responded to the word mother like a bell. My mom pressed a hand to her stomach. "Stress," she whispered. "My blood pressure. The doctor said I need stability." I stared at her. "Show me paperwork," I said. "Don't do this," she pleaded. "Why are you so cold?" Cold? Like I was the one who left an 11-year-old to figure out hunger? "Because you lie," I said simply. My mom's tears vanished like a switch flipped. "You ungrateful little," she started, then stopped when she noticed someone behind me, Miss Alvarez. She had come over with a bag of tamales, like she did sometimes, because she never stopped being my community. She stood in the hallway now, small and solid, looking at my mom like she was a problem she'd solved before. "Carla," Miss Alvarez said, voice calm, "I wondered when you'd show up." My mom's face tightened. "This is none of your business," she snapped. Miss Alvarez smiled without warmth. "It became my business when you left a child with $2, she replied. My mom's mouth opened, then closed. She looked past Miss Alvarez at the neighbors peeking out of their doors, curious. She straightened, trying to regain control. "Maya," she said loudly, "are you really going to turn me away after I raised you?" The hallway went silent. I felt my heart pounding, my palms sweating, the old fear rising. Don't make a scene, don't be dramatic, don't give her a reason. Then I realized something. She was the one making a scene. She was banking on my shame, and I was tired of paying her debts with my silence. I stepped into the hallway fully and said in a clear voice, "You didn't raise me, you abandoned me." My mom's eyes flashed. "Liar," she spat. I pulled the old note from my pocket. I had started carrying it like armor. I held it up. "This," I said, "is what you left me. $2 and a command." My mom's face went pale for half a second, then she laughed, sharp and nasty. "Oh my God," she said to the neighbors, rolling her eyes. "She's still obsessed with that. I was teaching her responsibility. Look how successful she is. You're welcome." My stomach turned, but my voice didn't shake. "I'm successful because I raised myself, and because people like Miss Alvarez fed me when you wouldn't." Ms. Alvarez nodded once, slow. The neighbors murmured. My mom's posture shifted, her power slipping as witnesses appeared. She tried one last move, the one she always used, turning the room against me. "She was a difficult child," she announced, pointing at me like I was evidence. "Always needy, always dramatic, always hungry," Ms. Alvarez cut in, her voice suddenly sharp. "Always scared, always trying to be small so you wouldn't get angry." My mom's mouth snapped shut. For the first time in my life, she looked cornered. I looked at her then, really looked, and I felt something unexpected, not pity, not hate, but emptiness, like realizing a monster under your bed is just a shadow. "Here's what I can do," I said quietly. "I can give you the number for a shelter. I can pay 1 week of groceries delivered to Lily if she needs it. I can help Lily find a therapist. But you will not live with me, and you will not get money from me." My mom's eyes narrowed. "So you're choosing strangers over your own mother," she hissed. I shook my head. "I'm choosing myself," I said, "something you never chose for me." For a second she just stared, breathing hard. Then she grabbed her suitcase handle like it offended her and turned away, muttering curses as she walked down the hall. When she reached the stairwell, she looked back and spit out, "You'll regret this." And I believed her, because regret was her favorite weapon, but I also knew something had changed. The door closed behind her, and my knees went weak. Ms. Alvarez put a hand on my shoulder. "You did good," she said softly. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I feel awful," I admitted. Ms. Alvarez nodded like she understood. "Awful is the cost of breaking a cycle," she said, "but it is cheaper than paying forever." In the weeks that followed, the consequences rolled in like slow thunder. Lily stopped defending Mom so automatically. She started telling me things she'd never admitted, how Mom had borrowed money from her, how she'd yelled at Lily too when no one was watching, how the wedding had been less about love and more about proving something to the world. Lily apologized one night, voice shaking, for not noticing what happened to me when we were kids. I told her the truth. You were a kid too. And for the first time, it felt like we were sisters, not rivals in a game our mother designed. My mom, meanwhile, bounced between relatives until they got tired of her demands. One aunt called me to say, "I didn't know she did that to you." I realized my mom had built her whole image on half-truths. The moment the full truth entered the room, her charm couldn't hold it. She tried calling me again, voice sweet, then raging, then sweet again. I stopped answering. One evening, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of my mom's hand holding a pen over a blank form. "It's a loan application," the text read. "Sign as co-signer or I'll tell everyone what kind of daughter you are." I stared at the screen, and instead of fear, I felt something almost like laughter. Because at 11, $2 had been the threat, survive or suffer. Now the threat was gossip. My world had gotten bigger. Hers hadn't. I deleted the message. The last time I heard about my mom, she'd taken a job at a salon and was telling anyone who would listen that her daughter was brainwashed by therapy. Maybe that was her way of surviving, rewriting reality until she could stand living in it. Maybe she would never admit what she did. But here's what she never understood. Closure isn't something a parent gives you. It's something you build when you stop waiting for them to become safe. On the anniversary of the day she left for Europe, I took the old note and the postcard and put them in a shredder. I listened to the paper tear into thin strips, and I felt my chest loosen like I'd been holding my breath for 16 years. Then I drove to Miss Alvarez's apartment with groceries, not because I owed her, but because I wanted to. I sat at her table, the same table where she fed an 11-year-old who thought hunger was her fault, and I told her, "I'm okay." Miss Alvarez smiled, eyes shining. "I know," she said. "You always were. You just deserved better." And for the first time when I thought of those $2, I didn't feel shame. I felt proof. Proof that I survived what was never supposed to happen. Proof that the child my mom called dramatic was actually just honest. Proof that responsibility was never my mother's lesson. It was my burden. And I finally put it down.